Well, good morning or good afternoon, everyone, depending on what time zone you're in. And we're glad that you could join us today for our Goldmorr webinar, How to Transform Your Business, Increase Your Profits by 60% or more. We, again, appreciate you carving out time. We know you have busy schedule, so we hope it's informative for you. Basically, we're going to be dealing with about a 20-minute presentation here to show you some ways that you can be profitable with the Goldmorr system and what type of revenue streams and profit margins you can expect, as well as a few pictures of some jobs and so forth, and talk about some of the benefits of having a Goldmorr license. And then we'll have a little Q&A section a session at the end. So if you're familiar with Zoom, depending upon what kind of device you're on, you'll have some type of a menu bar on your screen. There should be a Q&A button. You can hit that at any time during the presentation, and it will allow you to type in a question. And then, of course, those will be held in reserve, and then we'll go over those at the end of the 20 minutes, so maybe 10 minutes or so after that for Q&A, depending on how many we have. Randy Gandera, our general manager, is in the background monitoring those, so he'll help with that. My name is Brett Salee. I'm the national trainer and sales rep for Goldmorr, so I'll be handling the presentation today. So again, as I mentioned, I am in charge of national training and sales rep. If you do get your Goldmorr license, come to any of our training sessions. I'll be handling those as well. And so it's nice to meet you all. Many I've talked to on the phone or maybe emailed, so on and so forth, but we're glad that you're able to be with us here today. Now, personally, I've been in the construction industry all my life, some 30 years and more in that construction and remodeling. And then back in 2011, I owned and operated my own mold remediation company specifically. And I've been using Goldmorr products myself personally since then, with fantastic results that we'll, of course, talk about today. So what we will be discussing today, we won't go into detail into the products themselves, but basically all the things you see being represented as far as the jobs and so forth, we're looking at three main Goldmorr products. GM 2000, which is a fogging agent specifically formulated to be fogged safely into the air, which is a huge thing. And then GM Thermo, which is similar in terms of being a fogging agent, but it's oil-based for a thermal fogger, great for commercial jobs. And then our GM 6000 additive, which is the stain remover. That's what gives you that wow result where you just spray it on and the mold staining and growth just goes away. These three products cover all surface or visible mold applications, as well as our air quality or air scrubbing applications that you'll have out there in the field. So a question we get a lot at trade shows and just in emails and so forth is, what does it cost? What are the products cost? And that's a great question. People are obviously concerned about cost. That's one of the ways we control our profit margins, is the cost of products and whatnot. The challenge is that it's kind of hard to compare sometimes apples and oranges in products. I could sell you a product that was $1 a gallon, and yet if it doesn't do what it's supposed to do, it's really not going to be productive for you. And so while that is an important question, what does it cost? Perhaps a better question is, what can you as a remediation company make? How much profit can you make using the Goldmorr system because of how it operates? It's going to dramatically decrease your labor times, as you'll see in some of our photos, and of course, if you've seen any of our videos, and that's what's going to raise your profit margins. So we're going to look at a couple of examples, mainly on how potential revenue streams with the Goldmorr system using standard type jobs that are out there. One, we'll be looking at an attic remediation type job, and then also an interior mold remediation. Now, obviously, we have people using our products all across the country for sure, but even across the world. So jobs are always different in different areas. Some parts of the country, for example, the Northwest, United States, a lot of attic remediations because of the great humidity up there and also the shaded environment. We're down here in the South where I'm at. I'm in Arkansas. We see more crawl space remediation, but the principles are basically the same. And then, of course, any of us might deal with interior type mold remediation. So let's take a look at the attic remediation revenue stream that we could expect. Here's a typical, and this was an actual job in the Olympia, Washington area that Randy, our general manager, did. Typical thing you would see in an attic there, virtually every house you go into, this mold staining on the underside of the roof sheeting. Randy, before using the Goldmorr system, he used some other products and systems out there on the market, and they worked over a period of time, but a lot of labor, perhaps several days on a job, 4 or 5 days for a couple of guys, wire brushing, spraying, sanding, soda blasting, whatever the case. And then, of course, all the cleanup. So it was pretty labor intensive and still didn't get the results he was asking for. But with Goldmorr, what could we hope to expect? Well, again, looking at this attic job, let's take a 1,200 square foot attic, which is pretty small, depending upon your area. Bidding that, boy, that could be across the board, as we can imagine. Depends a lot on your market area for sure. It depends on what your competition is able to do. But a very conservative bid on a 1,200 square foot attic where literally every bay is covered in mold could be $2,800. Your competition is probably not going to be able to do it for that small amount because, again, they've got so much labor time in there. So using the Goldmorr system, though, where would we be at? Well, with a $2,880 revenue, what would be our labor costs? We're going to figure $300 of labor to do this whole attic, start to finish. That's based on 2 people working there for 6 hours and a rate of $25 an hour. Now, you can make some mental adjustments there, what the labor rate is in your area and so forth, but you get the idea. These guys are going to finish this job today. It's going to be done today. Now, what are your chemical costs? Chemical costs, using the Goldmorr system or any other, it depends a lot on how much visible mold is present. Obviously, the more visible mold, the more chemicals are going to be used. In this scenario where we have quite a bit of visible mold growth, we're going to factor in about $430 worth of Goldmorr chemicals. It should be more than enough for this job. So now your total labor and materials for this job, $730, leaving a gross profit of $2,150 with a 75% profit margin. That's pretty awesome. Now, it may not seem like a big job, $2,800, but imagine doing 1 or 2 of those a day with your crews. It's going to add up pretty fast. Now, let's say starting out takes a little bit longer, a couple hours more. You waste a little product. Still, very conservatively, 64, 65% profit margins. This is the kind of result you're going to be seeing in that job. This is an actual after same-day results on that job. You see left to right what it looks like after the Goldmorr process in just a couple of hours. So now again, start imagine how many of these attics could you add to your your jobs and complete each week. Now, what if you just did 1 more attic a week with the Goldmorr system with 1 crew? That profit margin we talked about, that's $107,000 of profit additionally each year. Maybe you could squeeze out 2 of those attics. If you had the workload, you sure could, even with 1 crew. 2 attics, now you're looking at $215,000. Again, pure profit. 3 attics, well, you can just keep doing the math. And depending upon your business size, you may have several crews out there. You may have a market that you can just do basically as many as possible. That's just one example of how the Goldmorr system can benefit you and your bottom line. Now let's look at another type of job, an interior mold job. Quite a bit different, but most of us deal with these one time or another, and they're caused by a lot of different things. Some jobs take a little bit longer if they involve a heavy water loss. Others are more in line with excessive humidity in a home, which is what we see pictured here. That's a different type of a job scenario. This particular one was a master bathroom in a client's home. You can kind of see the shower door there. They got their clothes hanging on it. They had a non-working exhaust fan in that bathroom. The walls were not wet. They were checked. There was nothing behind the wall, in the wall cavities. Basically, every time they took a shower, it added that excessive humidity, layer of mold started to grow. It would dry out. Then they'd taken, over time, it just built up this mold growth. It's hard to imagine sometimes people live in a day-to-day basis and in that type of environment, but we probably see it every day. So that's the job. What are we going to do with the Goldmorr system? Well, first of all, what would you bid on a job like that if you're going to go do mold remediation? Well, if you're doing traditional remediation, you might be tearing things out, might take several days, a lot of materials. So, you think, oh man, that's going to add up quite a bit. With the Goldmorr system, let's use a very conservative estimate. I'm going to go in there and do this job for $1,000 and it's going to look brand new. You can do that with the Goldmorr products. Now on that job, because we're not talking about a big surface area, it's going to be fast. My labor cost is only going to be $100. It took 2 guys 2 hours to clean all that, micro clean that mold, and then fog that building environment to take care of the airborne particles. So a very quick job. 2 hours, 2 guys. Chemical costs, very low on this because again, we're not dealing with a lot of surface area, maybe $75, and that's probably way overshooting it. So we just don't have a lot of cost in this job. Total labor and materials, $175, which seems like nothing, and it is. It's quick. Gross profit on that one job, 8.25, and it's going to take half a day for a couple of guys, for a profit margin of 83%. Pretty awesome. Again, what's it look like? This is it an hour later. No repainting, no sanding, no anything. Spraying the Goldmorr product on, maybe moving around a little bit depending upon the texture of the drywall and so forth, and then doing a fogging to make sure we get a nice air quality clearance as well. So again, imagine how many of those jobs you could add to your bottom line, using the Goldmorr system. And we have, again, hundreds of technicians across the country, companies that are using our system, and they have nothing but good to say about it. GM 2000, it's badass. Our most recent client requested an actual aerosol test when we completed the job, which we get. And again, testing varies across the country, obviously, who does it, what have you. But they had someone come in and do it. The numbers were so low, the lab called to make sure we'd run the full time on the test, because the numbers were so low. That was from James Meyer up in Columbus, Ohio. A couple other quick testimonials. This was from an industrial hygienist. These are the guys that are oftentimes used to doing it maybe the old school way. But he says, you change industry. Many people need this because they can't afford it traditionally. If you're dealing in a market where insurance isn't covering mold, which is pretty typical, a lot of our homeowners just can't do the jobs. They can't afford the jobs. But with a Goldmorr system, because of our reduced labor, reduced costs, we can get in there and do it at a more reasonable price point, and people are able to have that done, even if they have maybe a little bit of a rider on an insurance to help out. Another testimonial, we came in way less than the lowest quote because, again, Goldmorr allows 21st century technology to prevail over the good old boy method. Goldmorr, it simply works. So those are just a few testimonials. You'll see more on our website and probably have. But as far as becoming a licensed Goldmorr representative or company, what are some of the benefits? Well, we already talked about reduced labor costs and how that's going to affect your bottom line. It offers you a non-invasive treatment option, which minimizes downtime. That obviously keeps your costs lower, but it's also very attractive to your customer. They don't want to be displaced from their home. If insurance is covering it, they don't want to pay those long displacement costs, reconstruction costs, and so forth. To be a Goldmorr licensed company, there are no franchise fees. There's no ongoing royalties or percentages, no ongoing costs after your initial license. Your license includes unlimited training for your staff. We require your technicians to be trained using the Goldmorr system because we want you to get these results in your day-to-day operation. But we encourage all of your staff, whether it's clerical, marketing, estimating, everyone to be trained. It's all included in the license. The more people that know about the system in your company, the better you're going to be able to communicate with your customer base. And then, of course, that's going to help you do a good job for them. We are an IICRC approved continuing education provider. So our training class, when your folks go through that as a part of the Goldmorr license, they will receive 6 continuing education credits if they are IICRC certified, which obviously helps in maintaining their accreditation. We also have marketing materials that we make available to you. We don't require you to rebrand anything. You have your own companies, but to the degree you want to implement ours, you're welcome to our marketing materials. We have brochures you can use with your customer base that explain the process and what we do, so that you can use that in your marketing if you would like. We're also going to give you ongoing consulting and support. We're not here to just sell products. Randy and I are a phone call away. We get calls every day from our companies, getting ready to do a job. They don't know quite how to tackle it, or maybe they're on the job and they're experiencing an unforeseen difficulty, whatever the case is. If you're not getting the type of results that we're used to, we want to hear about it. We're going to walk you through it and make sure we get it handled for you. You can't get that with some product that you're buying at John Donne or Interlink or off the shelf anywhere. We're going to be there to support you. We also have, if you wish to avail yourselves of it, a proprietary indoor air quality analytics reporting system. Aerosol is really a technology of the past. There are new technologies using particle count reading. These are available in a reporting structure for our licensed companies, which is extremely valuable as well. So we talked about the cost of using the product and whatnot. What's the cost of getting a license? Well, as many of you already know, it is minimal. It's a one-time fee of $1,495. A lot of folks ask, well, why do you charge me to use your product? Well, again, it is a barrier to entry. We want to help protect your market area. We don't want to sell products just over the counter to anybody that calls up. We want you to be the go-to mold remediation company in your area. And so this helps ensure to some degree that just not everybody has access to the product. Again, it's one-time license for approved members only. And again, it gives you all those benefits, that unlimited training, ongoing support, so on and so forth. Now, talking about the training, we do an online webinar style training, similar to this, but a little bit more interactive, where you have your video going, we have our video going, we do a PowerPoint, we do Q&A, we talk about different scenarios, on and on. We do those at least once a month. It's a 2-day course, 2 3-hour sessions. We are doing one this week. Our next training is, this says September. I didn't change my slide. I'm sorry about that. It's actually tomorrow and Friday, Thursday and Friday, starting at 12 noon. Normally, it's just those who have been licensed and have their license in hand that come to this training. But as a part of this webinar special, if you would like to attend the training before committing to your license, we will invite you to do that. You can do the full training. You can kind of see what it's like. You won't be able to apply the IRCRC credits until you get your license. But the point is, you'll really be able to kick the tires well. We'll get into a lot more technical stuff, EPA, IICRC, all types of things that will cover the basics of mold remediation, inspection, and then of course the actual products, how to apply them, and all those good things. So if you would like to attend that, we'll put up a screenshot at the end of the presentation. Give me an email. It's Brett, S, BRETS, as in Salee, at goldmorrusa.com. I'll send you a link and you can register and have your folks sit in tomorrow and Friday if you would like. All right, well, that's about the presentation. Let's open it up to questions and answers if we had any. Randy, do we have any yet that anyone's asking?
Hey, Brett, one of the common questions we see here is, and you looked at that picture with the drywall in the bathroom. So this is a common question that comes up. How do you know if there's no mold behind that wall cavity?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. And we have these videos running at our trade shows, like Randy mentioned, and we always get guys coming up. That's one of the first questions. What about the wall cavity? Well, we do have to make allowance for that, and we go through that heavily in training. There are a variety of processes and investigation procedures we can go through to determine if there is mold in that wall cavity. Too many to go into right here. But the point is, oftentimes there is not. Oftentimes it's a surface mold from excessive humidity in the environment. Why tear down everything if you don't have it? Now, if we do have mold in a wall cavity, and that does happen, obviously, let's say you have an overhead water loss, an exterior wall that's got insulation in it, or maybe it's a pipe burst in there. Yeah, we might have to take out some drywall to get at the mold. But once we're at that mold, that's where the Goldmorr shines. We're going to be able to quickly, efficiently, and effectively get rid of the visible mold growth, and also, of course, with the fogging process, as important, the airborne particulates, the airborne spores and whatnot. So we will go over that extensively in the training, some various ways that we use to determine if it is in the wall cavity. I will mention this. One common misconception about mold growth in terms of drywall is that a lot of folks feel that mold will grow through drywall into the wall cavity, and that is not the case. Gypsum is a sterile environment. Mold will not grow through it. If you have mold on both sides of drywall, it's because you had a water event on both sides of the drywall. And again, that's possible, but we need to make that determination. If it's just a humidity issue, that's typically just going to be a surface mold. All right, Randy, any others?
Yeah, another question here. Do you guys HEPA vacuum?
Okay, great question. So, and we talk about this in class as well. So first of all, let's just very briefly, what is a HEPA vacuum? A HEPA vacuum is basically a vacuum with a filter on it that's guaranteed to eliminate or filter out 99.9997% of all particles, 0.3 microns or lower, okay? The weak link in a HEPA vacuum is typically the unit itself. It's not operating efficiently. It doesn't have a good seal, so on and so forth. So I preface it with that remark for a couple of reasons. First of all, we can vacuum and use HEPA vacuums in various things on a remediation job. Might be debris, construction debris, or whatnot. But once we're done with our remediation with the Goldmorr products, there's nothing left from that remediation that's large enough, that's even there, that a HEPA vacuum would matter on. You can do a tape sample, a surface sample, obviously air quality samples, it's gone. So in terms of the mold remediation, there's no direct correlation to needing a HEPA vacuum. But as far as general project cleanliness and whatnot, obviously we want to leave a clean project. I don't care if you have dust on a countertop. If you have an IH come in, they're going to fail it. Not because that has necessarily anything to do with mold, but in their criteria, that's not a pass. So you can use HEPA, but it's not required in terms of the mold remediation. All right.
Here's another good question that comes up. How long until the space can be reoccupied after remediation is complete?
That's a great question. So here's the deal. It's a very short period of time. 3 to 4 hours is the dwell time. So typical job, let's say that bathroom job we looked at, you're going to go in there and spray it down, wipe it down with one product, okay? As a lot of products are on the market, there's VOCs associated with that. It smells. When you do the fogging immediately after doing the wipe down, you're fogging that environment. It's going to not only eliminate the airborne spores and other contaminants in the air like dust, pollen, allergens, and so forth, but it's also going to neutralize those VOCs. So 3 to 4 hours after you fog, Mrs. Jones and Fluffy the cat, they can all come home. The air is clean. You're done. There's no long-term, rollover there. So many of our clients are back in their homes same day, of course, depending upon the scope of work. All right. Any others?
I think that covers the questions that have been asked. Good questions. Oh, here we have another one. Are territories assigned? And thank you all for your questions.
Yeah, we appreciate those. So good question. So it's not territories per se. And here's why. We don't have a franchise fee. We don't have ongoing royalties. So literally, someone that was a gas station attendant could get a territory, quote unquote, for the cost of a license and then never do anything. Now, we welcome gas station attendants to get a license, but we want them to use the product, right? If they want to get into mold remediation. So we can't just guarantee an area. What we will do is we will monitor the area. In other words, if you want to come on board in your area, we're going to see who else do we have in that particular locality. What are the demographics? Are you in Houston where there's 6 million people and we need a lot of representation and we've only got a few companies? Well, yeah, we're going to let you come on in there. Conversely, if you're in a smaller market or if you're a large company in a good market, but we've already got someone that's doing a great job there, we're going to protect you. Once you're a Goldmorr technician. We have turned down prospective companies because we were well represented in that area already. We want to work with who's already made the commitment to us and help them to grow their business. So it's not just a black and white answer. It's going to be something we're going to look on as a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, I think that answers it really well, Brett. I might just add that, you know, we do what we can. We want you to have a competitive advantage over the others in those markets. So if we have somebody who is just knocking it out of the park, and they're even in a larger city population area, but they're doing so well and they have large enough staff to take care of those customers in the area, then, you know, we pretty much want to protect you from that. We don't want so many people to saturate the market in that local community that everybody's kind of fighting against each other. So we do the best that we can to minimize that as much as possible. In my own local market where I'm at, I pretty much have a few people that I brought on recently, but they know not to come into my territory. Fortunately, I'm the distributor and I can shut off that faucet very easily. However, I want them to be successful too. I've had circumstances where I might have a job that's a little bit out of my service area or in more of the local market where one of my other Goldmorr members is, and I'll give them the referral to go get the job because I want to see them successful too, and I want to see them utilizing the system. So we try to keep all things, take it all into consideration and help each other through the process.
Yeah, and that speaks to, you know, us being somewhat of a family of companies. You know, it sounds trite and whatnot, but we do. We are like a family. We work with one another, not only with Randy and I, but even with fellow technicians. You're going to be able to call up and communicate. We have all of our technicians on our map on the website. Oftentimes we get customers requesting the Goldmorr system. Well, of course, they're not going to be a licensed company, but now we can use a referral basis and refer you local technicians to that. So we're all working together to try to help you grow your mold remediation business in your particular area. All right, very good. Any other questions before we end up?
I think that's it.
Okay, awesome.
Good on timing too, so very good.
Yeah. Well, again, we appreciate everybody attending today. If you are interested in moving forward with getting your license, obviously go to goldmorrusa.com. There's a link on getting your Goldmorr license. If you haven't already filled out a pre-application, you can do that. We'll check your area to see what type of a coverage we have and then proceed from there. Again, if you would like to attend that training tomorrow and Friday, go ahead and send me an email there at brett.s@goldmorrusa, or our contact information is also on the website, and I'll send you a personal invitation link to get registered for that class tomorrow, and you'll be able to see the whole program being presented. All right, everybody. Again, thanks so much for joining us, and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you all.